you for doing this, Micah. We appreciate you.
Yes, I'm so excited to be here and talk with you guys and give you my insights on what I've learned on the job. Lots of fun things to share.
And if you see the crazy the square down there, it says Kenyan with the lamp. Just don't worry about that. You can just focus up on me and Miss Staley.
Okay, fine, sure.
And Nina, because Nina's brave enough to show her face.
Yeah. I was like, when you guys can turn off the cameras, ask questions, and then this is what we got. So this is good. This is good. But yes, they're all here and they are present. But Micah, I think a good place just to start would just be, I think, if you just want to quickly tell us about your job and just explain your role really quick at the news station.
Sure. So I am a multimedia journalist. I work in West Lafayette, Indiana. So that's about 2 hours from Chicago, about an hour from Indianapolis. So what I do as a multimedia journalist every day requires me to write, film, shoot, edit, voice my stories for the day. I literally do it all by myself. Sometimes I'll get a photographer, but usually it's just me by myself. And I also write my own web stories. So I'm putting all types of stories together. I pitch my stories, I find my stories in the community, and yeah, that's pretty much what I do every day as a multimedia journalist.
Every day, Micah. Do you get weekends off?
Actually, so I do. I work the weekends. This is my weekend right now. Wednesday, Thursdays are my off days. So Friday's my Monday. This is like what we talk about in news all the time. We're like, oh, what's your Monday? What's your Tuesday? So my Monday is a Friday. And then my off days are Wednesday, Thursday. So this is my Saturday. Yeah.
Well, thank you for spending your Saturday with us.
You're welcome. I'm going to be anywhere else on my Saturday.
Appreciate that. I know you just got your wisdom teeth out. Was it past Thursday? You doing okay with everything?
Yes, actually, they healed pretty well. They didn't hurt at all. I'm shocked. I thought that they were pretty bad. They were like sideways or whatever, but no, they were fine. Got them out. No pain. I got lucky.
Good. Well, I'm glad to hear that they had no pain, because that is definitely not the norm.
Right. That's surgery. It's like, oh, you're gonna be so big puffy cheeks for days, and none of that happened. I don't know.
Man, imagine having to report with that pain going on, or that puffy cheeks.
Or standing outside of the fire. It wouldn't be fun. No, it wouldn't be fun.
It would not. So I think I'll give you one more to kind of think about, and then I'll turn it over to my students and see just what they have, because they all thought of questions yesterday. Yeah. But if you just want to give me a quick timeline of why journalism, like what was the moment for you, whether that was, I mean, obviously I knew you in college, I knew you were in journalism, so we were doing so many things together, but so was it before college? Was it beginning of college? But what was that moment that you realized that you wanted to pursue journalism to study?
Yeah, so I think for me, it was like a combination of when I was growing up and just learning who I was as a person. I was always very curious. I was always very interested in learning and talking with people. I love to talk. I was always in school, like my teachers like, stop talking. So I was always a talkative person, and I just really like to connect with people. And so that's how I found my way into journalism, because I realized, okay, this job allows me to do all that. I get to learn, I get to talk, I get to meet new people every day, and I get to educate others. I really like that aspect of getting stories and learning people's stories, and then getting to educate the community on what's going on. And I also love the creative piece of it, because you're every day you're making it up. Like you have your interviews, but it's all you write your stories, and you get to find creative ways to write and use your words to explain things that are happening in your community. So that's what kind of led me to journalism. But when I realized that I was like, okay, this is what I love, it was probably when I was actually in the career telling these people's stories in my community and seeing like physical change. Like I think one of the stories I sent you, which we can talk about later, I guess we'll probably get into that. But one of the stories I sent you, there like because of the story that we did, this girl was able to get she's got spina bifida, so she was able to get an ADA accessible van because of my story. If my story didn't air, she wasn't going to be able to have this vehicle because nobody would have known that this girl was raising money to you know, for her 16th birthday to get a car, and you know, it's very expensive. So I was just seeing how my work was having direct impacts on people, and it was just amazing. So that's really why I love this career, and it's just important. It's so important.
And that's awesome about the ADA van too, because I didn't realize that it was actually because of your story that I got her the van. I was thinking, obviously she was selling the rock she was painting and everything out in the community to come around. And I remember the lady at the hospital saying, yeah, we wish we could just give everyone a van, but we can't. But by the end of the story, obviously she had that. And I think that's so cool because one of the big things that I preach to all of them is just like, your stories that you all do for our paper and in Lower Price Hill in the neighborhood where our school is, like, they matter because they can cause huge change.
Yes.
And so even just like I was talking to Allie Lanassa, she did the same thing. Do you remember her?
Allie, oh, maybe if I saw her.
She was more of the writing side at OU. She was like, she worked for the like magazine and everything like that, like Backdrop. And so,
yeah, that's incredible.
She had a similar story about just, she's out in Delaware right now for a paper and in Maryland. And just one of her stories, like causing a lot more when it comes to, there's a fundraiser that was going on, a holiday fundraiser. She did a story about it and boom, like money went, skyrocketed. So just like telling them that if they see a need, yesterday one of the jokes was like, oh, this person just got a free van. Like, yes, they got a free van, but that was only because of the work that Micah put into it and a lot of journalists put into getting a story out. So if you guys see a need in the community, and you're able to make a video about it or a story, that's how. But yeah, this is Micah's talk, not mine. The point being that I'm really passionate about whenever y'all make those points, because
you're absolutely right. Like it's a direct impact what we do. So it's incredible. We really have a lot of power. That's why it's so important to, you know, take this seriously and be honest and truthful and hold yourself with a high standard, because we really have the power to change our communities, and that's the point, right? That's the point. We want to improve and make things better. So yeah.
All right, there's a good one. Okay. Carlissa would like to know if you ever doubt. Can you read the chat, Micah?
I think I popped up. It was too quick for me to read. So let me see.
Carlissa was asking if you ever doubted your work or doubted your career, or even if you have bad days, stuff, anything where you're like, why?
Yes. Oh my goodness. Yes. So coming into this career, that's so interesting that you asked me that, because like I just had this conversation. So anyways, coming into this career, I went to journalism school. I learned the basics, you know, journalism ethics. I learned how to write and read and shoot. But coming into this job is like being in an actual professional newsroom setting where you are required to like talk to real people, do real stories. Not saying that the stories I did in college weren't real, but they were more controlled because we had, you know, days to turn it, or we just had time to like get our sources. Oh, and if something fell through, there wasn't really a deadline like there is for this job. So I came in like, what did I get myself into? This is a lot. So just to give you some context, my deadline, my day starts at 9:30 and my stories are due at 5 and 6. So really you have to be done by no later than 4:30 with everything, because you just, you know, sometimes you're required to go live. And so you don't really have time to like be putting your story together at 5 and then you have a break to put the rest together for the 6 o'clock show. So you really have to be done by 4:30. So 9:30 to 4:30. And my interviews can be super late in the day. I can have a 2:30 interview, 3 o'clock interview. And I'm like, wait. So coming into this job, definitely felt a lot of pressure. Like, I do not know if I am capable of doing this. Like, personally, for me, I've always been kind of more of a slow worker. Like, I take my time when I'm in school. Like, that's just always how I've been. So time management was like, this is crazy. So yes, I definitely had doubts. And was realizing like it was really holding me back. Like I was so focused on, oh, I can't do this job. Like I'm not prepared. I keep making little mistakes. And like, I was so focused on that I was forgetting what got me into the position in the first place. And like kind of my natural abilities of like I told you before, being able to talk with people and connect and being curious and these natural things that I had, I was forgetting about that. And I was so focused on what I didn't know that I was like losing what I did know. And it was starting to just show up in my work. And I, you know, my stories just weren't the best because I was just so doubtful. So, you know, one day I just realized like, I need to change my thinking and I need to just remind myself that this is where I'm supposed to be. This is what I'm supposed to do. I'm built to do this. Like every part of my being has made me well equipped to be a journalist. So once I just started to believe that, there was like a shift. And then I was just finding better story. Like everything got better. The way that I would report got better, which helped me find better stories, which helped me turn better content. And it was just like a ripple effect of positivity once I changed my thinking. So yes, I hope that I answered your question.
Actually, you did. And I'm glad you brought that up because I know a lot of our kids struggle with, you know, pushing through, you know, and they like hit a, you know, and even Mr. Connor and I, we hit a roadblock and we're like, I just can't do it.
Yeah.
You know?
It's real and it's not, you're not alone. Everybody, like I've been in this career. It's officially been about 2.5 years. It took me a full year to really fully feel like, so my first year was like, gosh, it was like mistake after mistake after mistake. Okay. Then they started getting spaced out and that's, you know, this is my first market. So there is opportunity to grow. And I never made any mistake that was, you know, the end of my career, you know, and everything was a learning opportunity. So, yeah, that's it.
Okay, and then we still had a couple other questions in the chat. So
Okay.
Nina would like to know if there is anything else besides journalism that you were passionate about coming up, or like.
Yes. So outside of journalism, so growing up, I always really liked fashion and I liked to sew and I liked to make clothes. And so initially going into the journalism school at Ohio University, I was like, I think I want to do entertainment news. Like that was my goal. I wanted to be on the red carpets, talking to the celebrities. What are you wearing? Like that's what I wanted to do. And so my other idea was still kind of in news, but more fashion news. So maybe even magazine writing, but I knew that writing was something I liked always. And I knew that I always liked fashion and I still do. I've kind of shifted my career path. I actually really like doing local and harder hitting stories than initially doing fashion stories. But if one presents itself, I will take it. But yeah, maybe being a designer, either sewing, writing, doing fashion news, or this. Those were kind of my 3 options. So yeah.
I'll butt in for 2 seconds and quickly say yesterday I told them about the Andy Grammer interview and how we were able to just kind of, I mean, you took that under your wing and really, I mean, we tried to go through our news station that we worked for and they were like, it's not really working out. And so you just took the lead on it and reached out to his team and just talking about how easy it can be to access celebrity sometimes, like a lot more than we realize. I think when it comes to singers and things like that, it's all about just reaching out and trying to shoot for something that you think is impossible. And it worked. You were able to talk with him and do a whole interview. So
yes, and they're happy to do it too. See, celebrities are talking about themselves, so opportunity. And social media has made it so easy to do that now. Like so easy. You have your profile, just slide into someone's DMs. I don't know. send a cold email, and you just never know what can happen. Yeah.
Well, speaking of cold emails, do you find that you're sending a lot of those out to random people just to try to get stories and interviews and stuff?
Yeah, sometimes. So the way that my news station works, we have a like our newsroom email. So if anybody has any story pitches in the community, they can send it to our newsroom email, and then all the reporters, producers will all get it. And, you know, a lot, it's like kind of 50-50. Some of the stories are great. Some of them are just kind of like, oh, they just wanted to complain, so they sent us a story, but it's really not anything that we can pursue. But so that's kind of how I get a lot of my stories. There are some things where I come up with, I'm like, this is something I've noticed. Let me see who I can call to make that happen. Like, let me see who I can call. And that's with the other story I gave you. That's kind of what happened. I don't know if we were going to talk about that later, the stories I sent you. Were we going to talk about it later? Because I'll just wait to explain what I'm saying, Connor.
You can go ahead and explain it now, actually. I think now is as good as ever. If you want to talk about that specifically in depth.
Yeah. So to answer your question about cold calling, so I had an idea. I during this election season, I had an idea. I was talking with one of my friends from home, and he is an immigrant, and he was we were just having regular conversation. He was talking about, you know, it's really tough because as an immigrant, I can't vote, and like, this is like such a big election. Like, I really want to have a say. And I realized, wow, he's probably not the only one that thinks this way. So coming back and looking at my own community, my friends from home in Columbus. So I came back to my news station, and I was like, you know, I want to see what's happening in my community. So I cold called. There was this, we have this group called Immigrant Allies of, where I live in Greater Lafayette. So Immigrant Allies of Greater Lafayette. And so I reached out to this group to see if they had any immigrants that would be willing to share their story about, you know, what it's like to not be able to vote in this election. And I ended up finding an immigrant that had just an amazing story about how she was going to vote this year, and how things just didn't work out. And so I don't know if you watched it as a class, but that's kind of how I got that story. So yeah, that's, hopefully that answered your question about cold calling and how I find my stories.
Sorry, I put myself on mute. Yeah, no, that does. You know, I was going to ask what comes first, the story idea or the cold call email too. But
big story idea always. Yes.
Yeah, Micah, we showed both of those in class yesterday, and so I think that was cool. I had some good conversation too about both of them, and I was even just explaining. I actually don't know, but the beginning, the intro and outro that you did for those, for the at least for the immigrant story, I think you were on site, you were outside. Was that live or was those pre-recorded?
No, that was a look live. That was a look live. So earlier that day, I went out and I kind of wrote a little script, memorized what I was going to say, and then just went out. And the thing about look lives that I love is like, okay, if I have a lot to say, I can just, you know, keep saying it until I get it right. So that probably wasn't the first or even second time I said that one. That was probably like down the line. But yeah, that was a look live. And then I think the other one was in the studio. But yes, we do look lives in studio or actual live shots. Those are kind of our three. It just depends on the story, though.
Yeah, I think that's a good transition into our question from JJ. Yeah. She said, "What is something that you did or a story you wrote in the past 2.5 years being in Terre Haute that took you? It is West Lafayette. I'm sorry, not Terre Haute. West Lafayette. That took you out of your comfort zone."
In the last 2 years, that took me out of my comfort zone. Oh my gosh. Let's think. I'm like, there's like multiple ways to answer this question, because in some way every day my stories take me out of my comfort zone, because I'm like, it's so unpredictable. Every day it's like, I don't know what I'm going to be doing today. And then all of a sudden I have a story. So there's that aspect of it. But an actual story I did, that's a hard question. I really haven't thought about one that really took me out of my comfort zone. There was a story that I did that really required me to be very, very careful with my language and make sure that all my facts were correct. And that one was there was a situation, and it's actually still under investigation right now, but we had a situation where there was a Black man in our community that was basically accusing our police department of using excessive force with a canine during his arrest. And so that was a very, very touchy subject, especially because it was happening during this time of this time that we're seeing in our nation of racial reconciliation, where we're looking at issues and trying to work towards solutions. So with that being said, like that was probably something I was like, okay, I have been given the responsibility to do this story and share this man's experience and his claims. And so, that was like, okay, I got to make sure this is, we don't miss anything. I don't misquote anybody, like make sure I hear from the police. That was a lot of, got to do your due diligence. You have to ask questions. And even if it's uncomfortable to, have to talk with the chief of police and say what happened. Like that's uncomfortable, but you have to ask, and you have to let everybody have an opportunity to share their stories and their experiences. So that maybe was it. And that happened this year, back in July. Yeah. So
another one, since this is specifically, let's see. This is, these guys in this class, so it's a combination of, we got this video class, then we have this writing class that 99% of them are also in. So they combine to do obviously they're doing writing and they're doing video. And it's funny because obviously a big thing they said was, why do we have to do both? Why are we in both classes? Oh. And one of the first things you said was just, very clearly, you're doing everything for the most part as a multimedia journalist, multi-platform reporter.
Yes, this is really honestly where I believe journalism is moving. Like even at a national level, this is like, they want you to be able to do it all. And actually in my local news, we have our photographers, they go out all the time, and they have to grab stories. Maybe they're not voicing them and they're not on air, but they have to grab stories, and they're required to come back and write those stories. Even though they maybe didn't even go to school for writing, they went to school to film and shoot, and that's what they were focused on. But being in this field, like you have to know how to do it all, especially if you want to move forward and put yourself, you get yourself to a higher point in your career. You're gonna want to know how to do both sides of it. Yeah.
Good stuff. I appreciate that. That's so true, obviously. If you want to quickly sum up the process, even Micah, from getting the story pitch, pitching the story or receiving it from like your team,
sure,
to it's on air, it's up on the website, it's got writing with it. I know that's a lot, but you also don't have a lot of time to do it. So I'm sure it's a lot in a little bit of time. Yeah. But just if you could sum that up the best way you could, what would that look like?
Sure, I can walk you through my day. So a typical day, 9:30 in the morning is when my morning meeting starts. So we'll get on in this pandemic, we'll get on our Zoom call with all the reporters. Our producers will, go down the line. What you got? So it'll come to me. I will either, two things can happen. One, I'll either have a story set up. Maybe I set it up a few days before or the day before. And so I'll tell them, hey, I have this specific story set up. It's at this time. This is the story, give your pitch. You kind of describe what the story's about in one or two easy sentences. Producer says, all right, you're good to go. You're going to be doing, they'll say, oh, you're going to do a VOSOT, and we know what that means, right? VOSOT package, I can say with the class.
You can go ahead and just explain it really quick.
What a VOSOT is? Okay. So VOSOT, VO stands for video. So that means on air, you will see video and you'll hear the anchor reading. And then SOT stands for soundbite. And so after the anchor reads maybe just a few sentences, and you'll hear the SOT, the soundbite. And that's a VOSOT. So they'll say, all right, you're going to do a VOSOT at 5 o'clock. And then you're going to do a package, which is the anchor will read the intro, and I think you watched that yesterday, or I don't think you saw the anchor, it was just me, but the anchor will read an intro to my story, then I will voice my story. So then That's a package. So they'll say, all right, you're going to do a VOSOT at 5 o'clock. You've got a package due at 6. So after my 9:30 meeting, I will go to my interviews. It'll be maybe on Zoom. It'll be in person. We have a way to social distance, like have our mic stands social distance during the pandemic. So I'll come back home and I will upload my clips. And what I like to do is pick my compelling sound bites first. I'll come put it there. I'll pick my best sound bites and then I'll write around those. And that is, that's how I learned to tell the story the best way. I didn't always do it that way, but that's the best way. I feel like easiest way to tell the story. So pick out my best sound bites right in between. I'll record my voice. Somehow it'll be 3, 4 o'clock, and then I'll just get my story approved, and then it's pretty much got the golden stamp. I'll send it through our server that we have, and it's good to go somehow. It all happens in a matter of minutes, but you're thinking the whole day, okay, I like this as my lead. I think I'm gonna write that. Ooh, I love that soundbite. I think I'll put that first. So you're kind of like thinking all day how you're gonna lay your story out. So when you get back to the station or back home, you already know, okay, I'm grabbing that. That'll be a good nap pop right there. Like a nap pop is like when the sound, when you have like, oh, they're doing construction, so you've got the sound kind of playing. I don't know. That's an example, but yeah.
Basic question. What programs do you use to do this?
Yeah, so for our writing software, we use ENPS. We use that in college, Connor. Yes. So I don't really know how to explain that very well, but yeah, we'll use this I don't even know. We use a program called, what'd you say?
I was going to say, almost like imagine it as like a giant shared script.
Yes, that's good. That's a good way to describe it. Yeah. So the producer will lay out all the stories they want in the order they want it to go in the show. And then maybe mine will be more at the top of the script. And so I'll put my own story into this big rundown of shows or of stories. Yeah, I hope that makes sense. It's probably a little easier to show you, but yeah. And then for editing, it's called Edius, which I prefer. Like in college, we used Adobe Premiere, which I think I liked a lot better, but we use this software called Edius, and it does the job. It does the job. But yeah.
Miss Staley, you read my mind when you asked that question. That was perfect. That was perfect timing too.
I'm becoming a journalist.
Oh yay!
Do you work are you employed through one news station then?
Yes. So
Okay.
my news station is a CBS affiliate, and I don't really know the logistics behind that. I believe at the corporate level they pay CBS to let us be their affiliate. But yeah, I just work for Channel 18. That's my news station.
And did you choose where you live? Did you search for a job in that area, or did you go to the first place, like the place that offered you a job?
Actually, I am a member. After I graduated college, I found out about this this huge network of journalists, and it's called National Association of Black Journalists. So they do a conference every summer. And so after I graduated, I was like, and part of this conference is career fairs and connecting with other professionals in the field. So I was like, I graduated without a job. So I was like, I think I'm going to try this. Let's see what happens. I'll go and we'll see what happens. And I remember I walked up to this booth, this media booth, and they kind of described what they did, like where they were located and what it was. And then I remember at the conference, they took a picture of my resume, sent it to the news director. At the conference, maybe like an hour later, I got a phone call from the news director of my current station. He said, "Hey, we just got your resume. We're interested in, talking with you and meeting you after this conference if you want to drive down." So that's how I got the job. Drove 3 hours, 3.5 hours.
Wow.
it all just worked out. It all just worked out. Yeah. And I went, interviewed, a week later, got the job. A few weeks later, moved there, and bam, was there.
Nice.
Yeah. It's good.
Yeah.
And then we do have two questions we got one from Jamari and from Michael. And I think I'll read it real quick how you guys typed it in, but I think I might be able to sum them up real quick. Mari said, did you pick the specific journalism style so no one changes the story you want to tell? And Michael's question was kind of similar. So did you ever have issues with people telling you how to write and structure your story? So I think in other words, combine both of those really good questions. Creative freedom. How much creative freedom do you feel that you have in how you put together, how you edit together the videos, choosing the nap pops here and there that you want, and choosing the sound bites that you want? How much creative freedom do you feel like you have?
Yeah, I really have a lot. I really have a lot. But it really is a team effort. And when I say team, I mean the person I'm interviewing and me. Like, we both have to work together to tell this great story. So when I go out, I have to be asking question, like, I go out with an idea of, this is my story. If I don't leave with anything else, I need to get this answered in my story. Who, what, where, when, why, and then the other details. So when I go and get my story, like, that's what I'm looking for. And then hopefully I'm talking with somebody who can produce good sound bites, you know, give me some good answers. But from there, like, it's 100% how I want to frame the story. I know what the focus of the story is. It's just now what sound bites do I want to use to tell it the best way possible. And so when I'm out, yeah, I'm listening for sounds. If it's a very visual story, I'm like trying to get everything. Like, okay, how can I really make people feel when they watch this story that they are literally standing right next to me right now as I'm interviewing this person? So it really is my own. I write everything. After I write it, we have our producers that'll read over, you know, check for grammar, but they don't like go in and change my sentence structure, because that's a part of my work. Like, as a writer, I wrote it that way for a reason, because that's how I would talk, and so that's how I write, and so that's what makes you unique. When you and even for filming, like, some people shoot differently than I do, so that's their thing, and so people aren't going in and changing what you've done, because that's the whole point of you being the reporter, you being the storyteller. Yeah.
Really quick question about National Association of Black Journalists.
Yes.
Anyone in my class was interested in joining that or just getting involved, what would they do, Micah?
Yes. So first you have to become a member, and I believe there is a membership fee, but for students, they have a discount, and I don't remember the exact price. I believe it's around $40. But it gives you access to this portal of all types of career opportunities. It tells you, you know, it gives you access to the conference. You can't go to the conference unless you're a member of the organization. So yeah, it'll give you access to this conference, which is, it's really an incredible experience going out there. It's in a different city. I believe my first year, it was in Detroit. It was in Detroit. That was where I got my job, 2018. That's where the conference was. And so we're at a hotel. They've got it all set up. It's a big conference. They've got this huge career fair where there's all types of journalists, like at the network level, like what you see on ABC and NBC. They have all these different booths, and you can go up and, you know, talk with them, and they can critique your work for college, like what you've done. You can talk with these actual reporters. Like, it's really crazy because you see them on national TV and they're just sitting there like willing to help you. So that's how that works. I'm trying to think what else. Yeah, that's that's the conference.
No, that's awesome.
Yeah.
So.
Very fun. Yes.
We had this great discussion yesterday about what to do when you're so overwhelmed with things going on. What are some tips that you do to help yourself get through highly stressful times? Just to get everyone's opinion on it. Like yesterday, I set a timer, and every 30 minutes I give myself a break.
Yes. Yeah, definitely stepping away. When it's like, okay, this is too much. You just, it's fine to just sit and just take a breather and say, okay, I just need to not focus on anything. Like I just need to focus on me for just a quick second. I think for me, when it gets stressful and I'm like, okay, this is overwhelming, it really is just like, okay, let me get organized. Like that's usually for me. I need to get organized. Take it piece by piece. What's a little thing I can do to move forward in what I'm trying to do? Okay, first thing, maybe I need to eat. Let me eat. That's the first thing I need to do. Okay, now that I ate, let's see, what's the next little step? Okay, let me pick my favorite sound bites. Okay, easy, I can do that. Okay, next little step. What, just, I don't know. I'm thinking of just in terms of turning a story, because that's usually when I feel the most stressed. So kind of taking it little step by little step, instead of looking at this big picture, like, oh, it's all due now, and Now let's see, okay, what's a little achievement I can make to get to the goal? Yeah.
Okay, no, that's great. It's kind of like, I figure if they hear from everyone that we do get stressed and overwhelmed, and we all talk about ways we tackle it.
Listen, it's real. Not alone. Not alone there. Yes.
So.
Yes. And I've been doing this for 2 years, and I still have moments where I'm like, oh my gosh, what? But it's okay. Like you learn, you find ways to get through it. So it's okay.
Yeah.
All right, Micah, real quick, big feature question. What is do you have a dream goal? Like, do you have a dream job, something you could reach in the future? Are you already in it, which is awesome if you are, or is there still something else that you're like, ooh, if I could get in that position, I would love it. Is there something you're kind of aiming for?
Yeah, like I definitely think I am in my dream job now, like being a storyteller, period. That's my dream job. So I'm doing that. Now, maybe doing it at a national level, that would be fun. That would be awesome to be able to step out of the community I'm in and do it at a national level and travel the nation and tell stories nationwide. Like that would probably be a goal for me, to do it at a national level. But the job itself, I love it. I'm doing it.
Any celebrity or celebrity news reporter you would love to meet?
Oh my gosh. Let me think about that. There is one, her name, she was on E! News. I loved her. Her name is Zuri Hall. I think she works for Access Hollywood now. I know that just in this pandemic, the entertainment news world, it's kind of been difficult to do stories. So I haven't really seen her much lately, but she's like always been my dream journalist. But there's a lot of other hard-hitting journalists that I also really, really admire. I think there's Morgan Radford from NBC. She's great. I love her work. There's Errol Barnett from CBS. I don't know. I follow all of them, all the entertainment and not like just storytellers in general. I'm like, oh, this is awesome. Like they tell great stories. So I follow all of them.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, class is just about over, Micah. Any last words of inspiration or just anything we didn't ask you that you want to talk about?
Yeah, I would probably say stick with what you're doing. Like I'm glad that you're living out your passion. You're in this field, figuring it out. Continue to figure it out. I don't know. I think just keep pushing for it and don't get discouraged. Remember your talents and why you decided to pick this in the first place, and hold on to that. Don't worry so much about what you don't know. You will learn that when you get to that point. But remember why you chose to do this in the first place, and that will really that's motivation. That's motivation.
I think with that, Micah, we'll go ahead and if anyone has anything else they want to say, they can go for it. But thank you so much for doing this.
Yay! Yes. Thank you so much. This is so fun talking with you guys.
Is it okay if I give them your email?
Sure, absolutely. I'll just say it here. It's my last name, Upshaw, Upshaw. My first name, Micah, Micah, and that's at gmail.com.